Shalom. This video was inspired by brother. His name is Antoine Dodson. You guys may or may not have heard of him, but he is a brother who has recently come into the knowledge on who he is, and also, first of all, that's a blessing. But also, because of his newfound knowledge, he has also renounced a former homosexual lifestyle, which of course we know is rare. I think a lot of that rareness comes because people do not see anything wrong with it. Not really here to talk about that, but I am here to kind of address a video that he made. And because YouTube has removed its response to video feature, I can only hope that this video finds him. However, I think that overall I would like to just be able to kind of have a little bit of have some scriptures kind of address people who are going through similar things as Antoine. And basically what has happened in his life is that it seems like since he has kind of renounced his former life and started to do things by biblical standard, he has been basically faced with rejection from friends, family, even the mother of his child. He says in a video, does not want anything to do with him, and he's very confused and feels alone, and is really unsure about what he's supposed to be doing. His confusion comes because he feels like he's doing things right, but what he's getting in return from the people around him is basically rejection. Again, because how YouTube has it set up, you may not be able to actually see what he said in the video. Hopefully you can kind of research it and find it. And actually, I'm gonna look for the name of it so that if anybody wants to basically see what I'm talking about, they can find the video pretty easily and they can kind of see what I'm talking about. So let me get the name of the video real quick so you guys can see it. Okay, it's called "I Have to Let It Out. This Is Me." Okay, I have to let it out. Three exclamation points, and then "This Is Me," 2 exclamation points, by Antoine Dodson 24. Okay, so if you guys want to reference that. Okay, so there's the intro. Basically, he's feeling rejected and alone, even though he's trying to do the right things, confused about why that's happening, and confused about which direction he should be going, considering that those are the things that are happening to him in his life. Okay, now he kind of starts out the video saying this: "God, where are you? God, where are you?" And you know, I think that a lot of people, when they get discouraged, that's the sentiment. But to him and to all people, and this comes up a lot, people say, well, where was God when this tragedy happened, or where was God when this bad thing happened? Truth be told, guys, he's in the same place he's always been. He's in the same place he was when, you know what I'm saying, millions of beautiful babies are born healthy every year. He's in the same place when people overcome a disease in a miraculous way. He's in the same place he was when all good things or bad things happen. I mean, just because you're not necessarily seeing his work at hand, trust me, it's still working. So you never have to wonder about where God is. He's always in the same spot. He's always going to be who he is, and he's always going to back up what he says. Now, just because we go through trials and tribulations in life, there is no reason to discredit God or it's not really even discrediting what he said, because he never promised us that we wouldn't go through hardships. I mean, I would say quite the opposite. And when I get into some more of these scriptures, I think you'll see more of what I'm talking about. But God never promised us that we would not be touched by the ills of this world. Our reward is not this world. We have some fruit to gain in this world, but our true reward is in the next world. So, you know what I'm saying? It's never doubt where God is. He's always watching. He's always firmly in command. Okay? And another point that Brother Dodson was making, I think, throughout the video, and I think the sentiment of the video is that he feels like he's by himself. Okay, feels like he's by himself. And one thing I want to kind of get into now, and my main point in this is that when people feel like things are not going well and they feel alone and they feel persecuted when they're trying to do the right thing, all those types of things, honestly, this is true with history, period, but especially in terms of the scripture and us as Israelites. We should always be able to draw strength from the scriptures because our history is in the scriptures. And one reason why I think Israelites, up until recently when we've been in large part awakened, part of where we are lagging compared to other people is that we have not had a history to draw strength from. So that has left us vulnerable in a lot of ways. However, that's changing now. And we now know that our history is found in the Bible. And because the Bible is so deep and rich in history, we have a lot of experiences with our ancestors and relatives, or whatever you want to call it. We have a lot of their experiences that we can draw from and draw strength from. And there are a couple, I think, out of many examples in the scripture that I want to reference in this little video here. Okay? And when I was looking at Brother Dodson's video, a couple of names immediately sprung to mind. And just thinking about the stories that I read about when I was reading about them and how there were certain similarities in their stories with similarities in their stories versus Brother Antoine Dodson's story. Okay, and again, this video is not just for him, but it was inspired by him. Hopefully he finds it because I think he needs uplifting right now. But there are many people, I think, who probably are going through similar situations and need uplifting. So hopefully these examples can touch you too. And really, this is not anything extravagant, just a couple of quick hits that I wanted to reference just to make sure that people don't forget that we're never the only ones that have gone through hard times, tribulations, etc. Okay, so I just want to give a couple of examples of people in our direct history that have gone through things, that have been persecuted, that have been shunned and shamed and rejected and everything else. Okay, and a couple of them I think coincide directly with some of the things that our Brother Dodson said. Okay, now first of all, I tried to put this in somewhat of a timeline as far as when these people actually existed. Some of them are not quite on, and that's for a reason. But anyway, to get to it, first we have Moses. Okay, say Moses. Now, obviously, we know Moses was one of the greatest prophets of the Most High. A lot of the most notable miracles that the Most High performed were performed through Moses. He was the liberator of the Israelites. He led them through the wilderness right to the doorstep of the promised land. Okay, now those are all good, but being a leader in that magnitude comes with a very, very heavy heart, and I think a very, what can I say, Moses in his position, he was tried many times, and many times I think he felt alone, and I think he felt like there was nobody really there that legitimately had his back. Okay, so again, don't think that you're the only one. Moses killed an Egyptian who was basically abusing one of his brother Israelites. And Egypt was really, in large part, all that Moses knew. And he had to flee from Egypt to go hide, I think, in Midian, because the Pharaoh was the Pharaoh who had taken him in, his family, was looking to kill him. So he had to leave there and flee and hide. And it wasn't until the Most High called him to go back that he actually went back. And when he went back, he gave him a very big responsibility in freeing the Israelites. And Moses' response was that I'm not even a good speaker, and you want me to go confront Pharaoh and basically free the Israelites. Again, hardships, difficulties are nothing new to our people. You know what I'm saying? But to keep the story going, he was charged with confronting Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the land, and telling him to let the people go. And he wasn't even a good speaker. So again, I'm sure that he didn't quite feel like he was up to the challenge. But again, when the Most High calls us to do something, we can't expect it to be easy. And we're going to see that in a couple of examples. Aaron and Miriam, his own brother and sister, they were against him. When he had the Ethiopian wife, they were against him for marrying somebody who was outside of the nationality. Okay, his own brother and sister shunned him. Okay, now remember, he led I think 600,000 Israelites out of Egypt, maybe more. That may have just been that may have been fighting age Israelites. I forget the numbers, but he led a significant amount of Israelites out of Egypt, parting the Red Sea, fleeing, etc., etc. Okay, now being the leader of all these people, having just led them out of captivity, all he ever heard was mumbling and criticizing and bitching and complaining and all these types of things. Okay, now he's already put himself at great odds, facing the Pharaoh, being the leader of this group, having to lead them throughout all these things, and still he got no credit for them. They really showed no appreciation. In large part, many of them would have rather have gone back to Egypt to be slaves again. Okay, and then on top of that, Moses didn't even make it to the promised land. After all that, he didn't even make it to the promised land. And Moses was at the top of Mount Sinai getting the law, statutes, and commandments from the Most High. And these people were dancing around a golden calf. Okay, this is the group that he's been charged with leading. His own brother and sister were against him. The people who he was leading at many times spoke out against him. So again, Moses, I can assure you, felt alone much of the time, and he was in the wilderness for 40 years. Okay, and that's just a couple of little things out of his life. Next person, the prophet Elijah, one of the first great prophets. He was more so known for his deeds actually than his prophecies. Now, he had openly challenged the king of Judah, as well as he challenged the prophets of the pagan god Baal. Okay, and he fiercely won that challenge that he challenged them with, so much so that it put his life in danger, and he had to flee. Okay, now this was one that I thought was interesting in reference to Brother Dodson's comment that he felt like he was alone and he was by himself. And again, Elijah had a bounty on his head. He totally disrespected that pagan god, and there were people after him, and he thought that he was by himself also. Okay, and this one I'm going to some script to kind of break down how he thought he was by himself, and then kind of what the Most High said in response to him feeling like he was alone. Okay, this is in 1 Kings chapter 19, and I'm going to start at verse 11 and go through verse 18. And I'm going to kind of go through it, but I'll slow down when I get to the verses that more so emphasize what I'm talking about. Okay, again, 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 11. And this was when the Most High was talking to Elijah. Elijah had fled. He was in hiding. And he was kind of reaching out to the Most High the way that Brother Dodson did, really. And the Most High's response to him was kind of the following. And these are also the things that follow that. And he said, go forth. This is the Most High talking to Elijah. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and break in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out, and stood in the entering in of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. Real quickly, right there you see Elijah felt like that he was really being, and you're going to hear me say this term a lot, but he felt like he was being a soldier for God. And after everything that he did, he felt alone, and that all the other people who were soldiers with him had been killed. Okay, now this is going into verse 15. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when thou comest, anointeth Hazael to be king over Syria, and Jehu the son of Nimshi shalt thou anoint to be king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel Maholah shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth the sword of Jehu shall Elijah slay. Yet, and here's the kicker, yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him. Okay, so basically what the Most High is saying here, he's basically telling Elijah to be assured that you are not the only soldier left. Even though you may feel alone, and when you look around, you're the only one in that particular spot that you see, just know that I retained soldiers that ride or die with me. Okay, it's not just you. It's telling him right here, look, you're not alone. I got 7,000 people that's on the same mission that you are. So you don't have to feel alone, even though it may seem that you are alone, you're not. Okay, the Most High is always going to have people that ride with him that are going to be in similar situations, but may or may not be in the same immediate area. Okay, so take solace in the fact that even though you feel like that, it's other people going through the exact same thing. Okay, all right, that's Elijah. Next, this one you know, I'm sure, Job. Job lost all his family, all his property. His body was given over to ailment. I think he had boils and pains all throughout the day. Joel, another righteous man. And the people that I'm reading you, these are people who were soldiers for the Most High. These were not people who just did evil and had it coming to them. These were people who did the right thing. Okay? Now Joel was a man of God. Family, property taken. His body was taken. His own wife at one point encouraged him to curse God, so that in turn God would kill him and at least end his earthly suffering. So again, and this is a good one because this one kind of goes back to what Brother Dodson was saying about how his mom was against him and his father was against him and the mother of his child was against him. And I'm going to get more into this later, but you can never look for affirmation about what you're doing by looking toward other people. That's always going to be a fail, especially when they're not on the same path that you are. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to do the right thing and people are coming down on you and telling you do something else, that's all the more evidence that you are doing the right thing. Okay? And again, I'll get more into that later. But my point in mentioning that was to kind of bring it back to the fact that his own wife, after all these things that happened, told Job to curse the Most High so that the Most High would kill him and at least end his earthly suffering, which was the 100% wrong advice to give and to listen to, which Job did not listen to. But the bigger point is you can't listen to people around you when what they saying is contrary to the word of the Most High. That's the bigger point. Okay? So again, he's going through all this. He doesn't know why he's going through all this. His friends tried to come and give him some words of consolement. He really wasn't trying to hear it. He felt alone. I mean, in the sense that he was the only one going through this type of thing, he felt alone also. But Job was a righteous man, and even through all these things, even through all the losses that he suffered, even though his body was in pain, even though his wife, you know what I'm saying, she wasn't even on the same path that he was, and that's supposed to be basically the person that upholds you, the last person that upholds you. She giving him wrong advice. And through it all, he stood strong. He endured. He never cursed the Most High. He never blamed the Most High. He only continually blessed the Most High through it all. And after everything was said and done, the Most High blessed him. And that's what it be. The Most High bless. Even though you may seem persecuted, the Most High still gonna bless you, regardless how it look right now. It might look bleak right now. It might be bleak right now. But in the end, the Most High will bless you. And that is a fact. Okay? Next person. John the Baptist. Real quick. People thought John the Baptist was a crazy man. Think about it. Some dude out there, you know what I'm saying, preaching repentance. He got on a loincloth, eating wild locusts and honey. You know what I'm saying? And real briefly, again, John the Baptist doing the right thing. Powerful prophet. Powerful prophet. I think Christ said, out of all the prophets, none was greater than John the Baptist. I believe that's what he said. I might be misquoting that, but I believe he said that. Okay? Now, John the Baptist spoke out against King Herod because King Herod was sleeping with his brother's wife, which of course is against the law. And because he spoke out against this, he was thrown in jail. Thrown in jail for speaking the truth. How's that for persecution? That's just the plight. That's the plight of our people. You know what I'm saying? Thrown in jail for speaking the truth. And not only thrown in jail, but was beheaded. And his head was served on a platter at Herod's birthday. Herod or his daughter's birthday. One of the two. His head was on a platter at somebody's birthday. And all he did was speak the truth. Once again, being in jail for speaking the truth, you think he felt alone? I'm sure. He had to. That was his crime, speaking the truth. So again, can't go by what the masses are doing. You can't listen to people who are doing things contrary to the word of the Most High. Their words should be null and void. The only thing, if you're going to listen to somebody who is speaking contrary to the word of the Most High, then in turn, you should be doing contrary to what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? If I'm telling somebody, yo, treating your neighbor, you know what I'm saying, with respect, you know what I'm saying, you should do that automatically. And they saying, well, nah, you know what I'm saying, you gotta earn my respect to get treated with respect, da da da. That's contrary to the word of the Most High. So therefore, my thoughts should be contrary to them. Contrary to them is in line with the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So again, can't worry about what other people saying, what other people doing. If they're contrary to the Most High, they'll have their reward, and it won't be a good one. All right. Next up, Paul. Paul of Tarsus. Paul was a soldier for the truth and an advocate, a big time advocate for the Most High. Now, Paul had formerly been totally against Christ. Totally against Christ. Persecuted Christians. Was there when I think Stephen was stoned. He was right there giving the nod like, yeah, stone him. You know what I'm saying? He's preaching something that is foreign to us. But then he had a true revelation, and his life took a 180. And then he became an advocate for Christ. Okay? Now, Paul was unique. Now again, Paul's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to show people the right way to live. Paul's trying to live right himself. And what's unique, especially unique about Paul, I think, is that he faced persecution both from the Israelites as well as the Gentiles. As you may or may not know, there was a major sect of Israelites who were not Christ followers and did not want people to teach in Christ's name. They didn't want. They wanted Christ and the memory of Christ to be gone. And on top of that, Paul had formerly been one of those people, and now he had converted to a new sect that was advocating Christ and his teachings. So to them, they don't quite know what his angle is. He's not trusted, and because of that, he's a target. And then from the Gentiles, he's a target because he's going into, you know, a lot of these Roman provinces where they have pagan gods and goddesses, etc. And he's preaching about Christ and basically saying that y'all should get rid of your pagans and start following Christ. And again, to them, these are like their state religions. So automatically that makes him a target on their end as well. Okay, now let's read. I want to read a little something about what Paul had to say and what Paul kind of went through. Okay, this is 2 Corinthians. Let me get to it. 2 Corinthians. Now again, Paul's trying to do the right thing. He's facing persecution. This theme is common throughout the scripture to Brother Dodson and to all people trying to turn their thing around. Or the people who have turned their thing around but they're consistently facing, you know what I'm saying, resistance from people who don't want to see them turn their thing around. Like, again, misery loves company. People don't want to, you tell somebody that you're giving up this or you're giving up that or you're trying to be a better person, people look at you like you crazy, which I think is crazy. But in this world, the things that, I mean, what scripture said, when it gets to the point where evil is called good and good is called evil, you know we toward the end. Okay, but let me get to this chapter verse. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 24. And these are some of the persecutions that Paul is talking about that he faced as somebody who was trying to do the right thing. Okay, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 24, should be through 28. Of the Jews, wait a minute, let me make sure I don't need to go back one. Okay, I do. I'm going to go back to verse 23. Actually, I'm going to go back to verse 22. This is Paul speaking about his plight and kind of the things that he's going through. Verse 22, Corinthians chapter 11. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more, in labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. So right here he's saying I just took more, and stripes or lashes from a whip, basically. So he's saying that he's taken more whippings, he's been in prison more, he's been closer to death than many people. Continue to verse 24. Of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. So 5 different times he received the punishment of, what's that, 39 lashes? So what's that? That's almost 200 lashes that Paul got just for trying to do the right thing, speaking the word of truth in terms of Christ. 3 times was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. 3 times, I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep, in journeyings often, in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Besides those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Again, Paul, straight soldier for Christ. All those things he suffered, whether it be being freezing cold, hungry, thirsty, in prison, beaten, shipwrecked, and still kept it together. Still was a G for Christ and the Most High. Again, persecution, feeling alone is not anything new. If you're doing the right thing, expect some backlash. What do they say? No good deed goes unpunished. I got more examples, and I'm trying to beat this over the head because I want to make it abundantly clear that I think when people walk this path, they expect a certain ease. And really, the ease is more, what can I say? I think your soul, your spirit is more what comes at ease. However, the flesh, the physical part, in some ways the psychological part, the external influence, those things are what become harder. The outside becomes harder, the inside is at peace. That's the walk. Okay? I guess that's probably the best way I can put it. The external things, those will get more difficult. The internal things, those become more at peace. However, if you do not properly filter those external things, those external negative influence that are going to happen when you choose the path of light, if you don't filter those properly, then they can have an effect on the inside and truly make you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. Okay, so that's why I wanted to give these examples to let you know that it's normal. It's not uncommon. I mean, probably more common than not that you get challenged, especially when you openly declare that you're walking a new path and that you're walking in the light. You can just about bet that right behind that statement, the devil is coming with a test for you. And the Most High is going to allow that test because he wants to give you the opportunity to prove it to him and prove it to yourself. What you say is what you mean. Okay? So things like this either make you or break you. And I got a script that's kind of pertaining to what I just said coming up. All right, next example. The apostles as a group, apostles, soldiers for the truth. They face persecution at every turn. First of all, I would say read Acts, period, the entire book of Acts, but also Acts 5, one of my favorite chapters in Acts. They were commanded by a council of fellow Israelites not to teach in the name of Christ. They were thrown in jail because they did. The angel rescued them from jail. They went to go find them the next day in jail, and they was not there. They were gone. You know where they were? Right back out preaching in the name of Christ. And when they were found to be free from jail, the people who put them there obviously, again, were saying, yo, didn't we tell you not to teach in the name of Christ? And we're going to go to what they said. We're going to read what they said. And this is how you got to look. This is a good example of how you have to look at the persecutions of the people around you. The people who are not on the path, who are trying to tell you what to do. This right here, this verse that I'm about to read, this has to be your mentality. Right here. Even if you feel alone. Okay? Where is it at? Acts chapter 5, verse 29. Actually, verse 28, this is when the council basically told them, yo, didn't we tell you not to teach in his name anymore? And then we're going to get into what they said after that, okay? Verse 28, the council, this is what they said, saying, did not we straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, ye have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Talking about Christ. And then this is Peter and the guys' response. Verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. There it is. And I'm going to repeat what Peter and the apostles said in response to this question, in response to this command. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. Once again, if man is telling you something contrary to what the Most High saying, contrary to what Christ saying, which is really the same thing, then it don't matter what they say. Let them be spiritually dead. Let them choose lies. Let them choose ignorance. That got nothing to do with you. Whether it be your family, whether it be your intimate family, it don't matter. You want to know what Christ said? Christ said, my mother and my brother are those that do the will of the Father. Anybody else? Hey, we just got the same genes. we got similar DNA. But that you got a spiritual DNA too. And that's the DNA that matters. Christ said, where are my mother and my brothers? My mother and my brothers are those that do the will of the Father. So whether your mom is against you, whether your father is against you, whether your wife is against you, whether your children or it don't matter who's against you. If the whole world is against you and the Most High is with you, then the world is outnumbered. All right. Now check this out. After that little interaction between the apostles and basically that council, basically they actually had I think it was a Sadducee, Pharisee. I think it was a Pharisee. Sadducee is a whole nother breed. But basically they had someone come up. Hold up, let me find it so I can get it right. A Pharisee, what I thought. They had a Pharisee actually speak on the behalf of the apostles, basically telling the council that if this is truly from God, then it can't be defeated. So you might as well just let them go and see how it turned out. That's basically what happened. And you know what? They listened to the Pharisee who told them this. But you want to know what they did before they listened to him? They jumped the apostles. They beat them down. They whooped that ass. I mean, it's a fact. They beat them down, whooped them, pushed them off again and said, stop doing this. Okay? And I'm going to read it from the actual scripture. That's just me paraphrasing. And then I want to read you what they said after they got this beat down. Blew my mind. Probably one of my favorite verses in the script. All right, let's find it. This is going to be verse 40. Okay? And this is after they had agreed with the Pharisee who had basically told them, just leave these boys alone. Let them do what they're doing. If it's from them, then it's going to fail. If it's from the Most High, then there's nothing you can do to stop it. Okay? And then after he said that, this is kind of the interaction between the council, that Pharisee, and then the apostles. And to him they agreed. And that's the council agreeing with the Pharisee. And to him they agreed. And when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they should not speak in the name of Jesus and let them go. Now this is my killer verse. And they departed from the presence of the council. That's the apostles left from the council after that beatdown. And they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. They took that beat down. How do I want to say it, man? They took that beat down as a blessing. They looked at that beat down as that they were worthy to get beat down for his name. They took that beat down with pride. They were happy to have caught that beat down. They were happy to have suffered for his name. Okay? Now that's a whole nother level type of commitment. Now that's something that, real honestly, us these days, we're not quite built like that. We can get to that with the more understanding we get, but we look at things like that as a sign that we may be doing the wrong thing, when the opposite is true. Persecution a lot of times means the right thing. I mean, think about it. Think about all the black leaders that got killed trying to do the right thing. I mean, history books are littered with names of people who got killed trying to do the right thing. Okay? So, again, just because you face opposition, that don't mean you're doing anything wrong. That could very well mean that you're doing things right. Now, if everybody's agreeing with you and everybody's saying, yeah, that's right, then you may want to check yourself, because then there may be a good chance that you're not doing the right thing. When you have too many people agreeing with you, you may be doing the wrong thing. Okay? And especially if you know you're trying to do the right thing. You know you're trying to live according to the statutes, laws, and commandments of the Most High. If you know you're trying to do those things and you face an opposition, then you should count that as a blessing, as did the apostles when they caught that beat down for trying to do the right thing. Okay? All right. Let's see. Hold on. I got a quote from Paul kind of pertaining to the same point I was just talking about. That's in Romans chapter 8, verse 17. And this is a statement about the relativity of the persecutions of this life versus the blessings in the next life. Real simple. Romans chapter 8, verse 17. Romans chapter 8, verse 17 and 18. Okay. And this is Paul. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Again, crystal clear statement. The trials and tribulations of this world mean nothing. The opinions of ungodly people who have no interest in walking the light, those opinions mean nothing. The only thing that matters is your relationship with the Most High and what you're trying to do to better that relationship. The only thing that matters. Really, in this world and the next. This world gonna fade away. Them opinions don't mean nothing. Okay, one last example, and hopefully this example is obvious. And I saved this example for last because I think that this puts a nice bow on everything I've been saying as far as the people of this book who have been persecuted for doing the right thing. Okay, and last but not least, of course, Christ himself. Christ. You want an example of somebody facing persecution, rejection, etc. from all sides? You need look no further than the four Gospels. Okay? Let's read a little bit about Christ. And I can assure you there were times that he felt alone too. Alright? Check it out. Now Christ did nothing but good works and speak truth. He was criticized and ridiculed from the jump. Before the crucifixion, he prayed facing immediate death. Now, I would assume that there is probably no more feeling of loneliness that you can have than knowing that your imminent death is just at hand. You know it's coming. You know it's not going to be short and sweet. You know it's going to be painful, but you know it's coming. That has to be a feeling of extreme loneliness. Nobody can do it with you. Nobody's going with you. It's something you have to suffer and endure by yourself, and that's death. Okay? So again, going back to Brother Dodson's comment about feeling alone and by himself, going to the people who may be going through the same type of thing, who feel by themselves. Not by yourself. Not by yourself. The other people currently living going through the same thing. Our ancestors have gone through the same thing. Christ went through the same thing. The names that I listed today, just a couple going through the same thing. Okay? Let's read more about it. Now, this is why I say Christ had really felt alone. Now, as you know, he had disciples who rolled with him. There was his inside crew. His inner, his inner core of people. But while he was praying, they fell asleep. Christ is about to face death, torture, death, etc. He goes to pray, tells them to keep watch. They fall asleep. All right. One of those disciples was his main sellout guy, Judas. Now, he done prayed with Judas. I'm sure it taught Judas, broke bread with Judas, walked with Judas, did all these things with him and the other disciples, only to be sold out by Judas for what, 30 pieces of silver, and then betrayed by a kiss. Betrayal by somebody close to you. Now that's a feeling that will make you feel alone. For anybody who's never felt that, betrayal by somebody close to you will make you feel alone. What else? Peter. Peter was his right-hand man. A true rock for the church. But even Peter denied 3 times that he knew Christ. 3 times. Not once. Not like once. Second time he got asked like, yeah, that was messed up. I said that. I take it back. Yeah, that's Christ, my man, 100 grand. No. Peter denied Christ 3 times. And Peter's Christ's right hand man. I mean, that I wouldn't call that an exact betrayal, but it's definitely like that's something. You know what I'm saying? When your main guy denied 3 times that he know you. And for all intents and purposes, Christ was a major rock of the upbuilding of the church, and he denied Christ 3 times. How long do you feel on that one? The multitude who had witnessed Christ perform miracles over the last 3 years, they had witnessed miracles, they had witnessed teachings, they had witnessed great acts of righteous indignation. They had witnessed these things. He turned fish and bread into many fish and bread and fed the people both physically and spiritually for years. They walked with him, followed him, and then when they had the chance to free him, they chose to free Barabbas instead. They could have said, let Christ go. Let the man who been feeding us for 3 years go. Let him go. But no, they turned their back on Christ and said free Barabbas instead. And then on top of that, as a slap in the face to all of us, they said, well, let this sin be on our children. That's us. And as you can see, that's probably part of why we're in the situation we in today, because the sin of sending the Most High's only begotten Son to the cross and declaring that he be crucified, they said, let that sin fall on our children's head. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that. Again, his inside one of the inside crew betrayed him. Judas, Peter, his right hand man, denied that he knew him 3 times. The multitude who he had performed miracles in front of, who he had taught in the temple, who he had fed, who he had done all these things in front of, they said, let's free Barabbas instead. Left them to be crucified. And that, okay, sorry about that. reached the maximum capacity. And that right after after the Peter incident, I think it was after that or sometime very close to that. Now this was after Christ had did nothing but good things. Again, to Brother Dodson, to all the people who feel like things are going awry in their life from outside sources when they're trying to do the right thing. Christ, the Son of God, was spat on, punched, and slapped. And again, the multitude sent him to his final, that was the final nail in the coffin. And then, after they decided that they wanted to free Barabbas instead of Christ, after earlier he had been spat on, punched, and slapped, then after that, he was whipped, stripped, a crown of thorns put on his head, spat on again, hit in the head, and then nailed to the cross, where he hung until he died. People, if you take this walk, it's not designed to be by the nature of the stance that you're taking, you're gonna rub some people the wrong way. The truth is offensive. You trying to do the right thing and stating that you're giving up certain things to do the right thing is naturally going to elicit a negative response to people, partly because it's going to expose the fact that they're not doing the right thing. For example, if I say, yeah, you know what, I'm cutting down on my drinking because I don't think that's in line with what the Most High wants us to do. Now, I'm not saying that drinking period. I'm just saying, like, if you drink a lot and you say you cutting down because you want to be more in line with the moderation, the law of moderation that the Most High put forward, and then that automatically, if you're talking to, let's say, a friend of yours or somebody else that you run with, and y'all used to do the same thing, that's going to naturally put y'all at odds, because what you just said by your actions is that drinking too much is not in line with the Most High. So people going to take that personally. That's one of the reasons why people are going to attack you when you try to do the right thing, because by you acknowledging what you did wrong, you're also acknowledging what they're doing wrong, and people don't like that. So expect it. All right, hold on real quick. So, I mean, to kind of, I guess to kind of cap that off, doing things by the book, you're going to naturally make some enemies. It's just a natural fact. It's going to happen. Okay? Now, let me read a couple verses. Might have to put it on pause again in a second. Got something I got to do real quick. But let me try to knock out a couple things before that. Let me going back to Christ. One of the best examples, I would say, between Christ and Job. If you want to read about some people who straight faced some stuff and was just doing nothing but the right thing, that I would strongly advise those two examples. And I would also advise you look at how they handled them. If you want a perfect model. Matthew chapter 5. Let's see, what was I going with this one? Again, Christ spoke about persecution in one of his many wise sayings. So let's see what he said. This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Let me say that again. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. There it is. Very, very precise, clear statements about the nature of persecution. And I'm going to read the two persecution verses again, because I think those hit right on the head with what Brother Dodson was talking about and what a lot of people may be feeling. Verse 10 through 12 again. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Can't escape it. This walk is going to naturally have persecution, hate, revile, whatever you want to call it. It's coming your way, and you should be happy it's coming your way. That's what Christ is saying right here. That's what the apostle said. Another one, Matthew 10, and I love some Matthew, so excuse me for hitting all these verses. But I'm trying to drive this home. Quick one. Matthew chapter 10, verse 22. Quick one. And he was talking to the apostles when he said this. But as you know, many things that he told the apostles are directly applicable to our lives as we try to live, as we try to be Christ followers as the apostles were Christ followers. Okay? Quick one. Chapter 10, verse 22. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Persecution is coming. Another one, Matthew chapter 10, verse 37. And this one, I think I alluded to earlier, but it goes back to Brother Dodson feeling the persecution from family. Now, of course, it's one thing feeling persecution from just external factors, period. You know what I'm saying? Whether you feel like the media or, you know what I'm saying, whatever, outside sources basically saying things contrary to what you're doing. But it is another ball game when you hear it from your family. However, another thing Christ said, he came to set men in variance with their sons. He came to set women in variance with their daughters. So again, Christ following his word, it is a divisive, polarizing thing. You can't expect to follow this and not have some type of backlash. It's just not realistic. Okay? Chapter 10, verse 37 through 38. It's Christ talking. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. Once again, count the persecution as a blessing. Count it as a blessing. It's a good indicator that you're doing the right thing. Okay? I'm going to put this on hold one more time and I'm going to wrap this up. Alright, in closing. Now, this may be hard to believe, but I really didn't intend on this going that long, but it is what it is. The main points that I want to kind of wrap this up with is, again, and I've said this throughout, but when you choose to walk the path of light, and the only path of light is the word of the Most High. That's the only path of light. When you choose that path, know that light is by its nature contrary to darkness. So when you choose to walk that light, you have to naturally expect that there are going to be forces, and those forces are going to come into people around you, and those forces are going to be contrary to you. And because you're walking on the light of the path of the Most High, then those forces that are contrary to you are also contrary to the word of the Most High. And for that reason, you know that you are on the correct path. As Christ said, wide is the path to destruction, but narrow is the gate to the kingdom. Therefore, if you do feel alone, again, you may be on the right path. There's going to be a lot of people on the path to destruction, but few on the path to righteousness. Our numbers are lower, and they should be, but our strength is greater because we believe in something that will last forever. The temporary ills of this world will pass. The heartache, the pain, suffering, all of it will pass. God's eternal light, His eternal word, His eternal truth will never pass. They will last forever. Don't fret, be strong. And as a big brother, I say the following: man up. You don't need to confess your joints on YouTube. Take them directly to the source. What you feel is not a new feeling. Christ, the Son of the Most High, probably the most, not even going to say probably, the most faithful person ever walked the earth. Even he got scared and had doubts. He asked that the cup be passed from his lips, that he did not have to endure what was coming to him. He had a very human moment then. So, it's very natural that you're going to have human moments where you don't feel as confident. but it's about endurance. It's not about never feeling like the way you feel is not like you're going to go through life and it's just going to be it's going to be some tough times. But again, read this word, let it get up in you, and it will strengthen you. You can do all things with this word and this truth. This is to Brother Dodson. This is to anybody who's trying to follow this word. There are going to be challenges along the way. That's just the way it is. That's life, period. But especially when you decide at this day and age to walk in the light. The light is being challenged more than ever. Darkness is making its final stand and trying to be contrary to the light. But as darkness knows, it will lose, but it's trying to take as many people down as possible. That being said, Brother Dodson, I feel for where you coming from, but be strong. This thing, since you declared that you had given up that former lifestyle, and since you declared that you want to walk in the path of truth about finding out who you are and getting more in tune with the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, since you made that declaration verbally with your mouth, since you put that vibration in the universe, and a vibration is a material manifestation, since you put that out there, is the devil's way that he's coming to challenge it. Because frankly, you, Brother Dodson, and I truly have an admiration and respect on what you've accomplished thus yet, but believe you me, you still have much work to do, as do I, as do we all. But you are a direct threat to the lie that has been told in this world, and that is that lifestyle could not be repented from. The devil has to specifically come after you. The devil has to prove that what you said is a lie, because you present a direct threat to the lie that he has permeated throughout this earth. Okay? When I saw the video about, you know what I'm saying, you changing your ways and you coming into the truth, I was exceedingly happy. But I knew that a challenge was coming. Okay? You may not realize it, and it may not be necessary for you to realize. Really, the only thing you need to be worried about, like you actually said in another video, was following the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. But just know that because of your very unique background and your very unique story, you are a prime target for Satan, for the devil, for Lucifer, whoever y'all want to call him, the old snake in the garden, the old serpent. You pose a direct threat to the lie that he's been telling. So you, above all people, especially after broadcasting it for the world to see, you can expect challenges. But if you stick to the script, keep your prayers toward the Most High, keep your faith in Him, He will strengthen you, He will deliver you. God bless you, brother. God bless you all. Hope that you all gain strength by faith in the Most High, that you can keep walking this light and to be more in accordance with how He wants you to be. And when I say you, I mean me too. I'm on the path, and I'm constantly being bombarded with darkness myself and trying to stay on the path. Just hope that we all stay uplifted, don't fall off, don't backslide, keep fighting. It's going to be a fight to the death, and the Most High will reward us in the end. All praises to the Most High. Be blessed. Shalom.